Picture a river throttled by a concrete wall. Water piles up, pressure builds, and turbines hum as a controlled torrent turns motion into megawatts. Now, zoom out until the dam is a dot on a map and draw fiber lines radiating to cities, cloud regions, and research labs. Follow those lines to a campus of long, windowless halls where the air is cool and the lights are dim. Inside, racks of servers inhale electricity and exhale heat. Fans roar, pumps push, and a meter on the wall ticks upward in real time. Every prompt, every training run, every image generation rides on that meter. AI is not only an algorithm, it is a geography of power. Dams, transmission corridors, substations, water rights, and latency triangles now decide which products ship and which promises stall. In the next 20 minutes, we'll explain why data centers chase rivers and reservoirs, why water and temperature matter as much as raw compute, and why milliseconds to users are traded against megawatts on the grid. We'll translate voltage and vapor into money, policy, and competitive advantage, and we'll show how your next decision, build here or there, cool this way or that, echoes across costs, communities, and timelines. Start with the simple physics of a modern AI facility. A data center is a power plant in reverse. Instead of making electricity, it consumes it to manufacture computation. Traditional web traffic arrives in bursts and leaves quickly. Training runs and large-scale inference do not behave that way. Training is sustained and hungry, like a steel mill for math. Thousands of accelerators synchronized for weeks want a stable, high-capacity feed. Inference is spiky and sensitive, like a call center for tokens. 1 million users show up at noon and expect answers without delay. Both push power density up. A single hall can draw as much electricity as a small town. With density comes heat, and with heat come cooling choices that ripple through siting. Dry air systems can't always keep up when accelerators pack tight. Liquid loops and rear-door heat exchangers arrive. In some climates, evaporative systems cut energy use at the cost of water. Those choices are not cosmetic. They decide whether your operating bill leans on kilowatt hours alone or on kilowatt hours plus millions of liters a year. Add latency to the picture. Training can tolerate distance, inference cannot. Put the heavy training near cheap, steady power. Put the latency-critical inference close to users or near the enterprise data it must read. The resulting map is not random. It concentrates training where grids are cool and robust, and inference where fiber, clients, and compliance point you. Under the hood, the economic engine runs on 3 inputs: electricity price and availability, cooling efficiency, and network position. Power first. The price you pay per kilowatt hour has components you can influence and components you cannot. You can sign long-term power purchase agreements to secure a slice of hydro, wind, solar, or nuclear output, smoothing price volatility. You can build behind-the-meter projects on land you control, adding solar on rooftops or storage in containers. But you cannot bend the physics of a congested transmission line or erase a multi-year interconnection queue. In many regions, the time between "we want 100 megawatts" and "you can plug in" is measured in years, not quarters. That queue time is an economic moat for incumbents already connected. Cooling is the second input. Power usage effectiveness, or PUE, tells you how many watts the facility needs for every watt the IT equipment uses. A PUE close to 1.1 is excellent. Every point you shave saves real money. Yet the more interesting metric in water-stressed regions is water usage effectiveness, the liters per kilowatt hour of IT load. Evaporative systems lower PUE by letting water do work, but they raise WUE. Closed-loop liquid and refrigerant-based systems reverse that trade. Less water, sometimes more electricity. Location tilts the board. In cool, dry climates, outside air can do much of the cooling for free. In hot, humid climates, the same trick backfires. The spreadsheet says PUE 1.12, but the map says only if the air cooperates. Network position is the third input. For training, you care about fat pipes to cloud regions and partners. For inference, you care about proximity to users and to enterprise data silos that your models must read. Latency has a floor set by distance. You can't cheat the speed of light in fiber. You can only choose where to stand. That is why data center clusters sprout at the crossroads of submarine cables, long-haul fiber, and dense customer bases. It is also why a remote valley with perfect hydro and cheap land might still lose out for customer-facing loads. The milliseconds don a pencil. Now add the hidden gears. Contracts and incentives reshape the map. Developers negotiate tax abatements, accelerated depreciation, and tariff structures that reward predictable loads or penalize peak draws. Some utilities offer special rates if you can modulate demand on command, turning your campus into a virtual grid battery. When wind roars at night and demand is low, your training job can speed up to soak the surplus, lowering effective price. When heat waves slam the grid in the afternoon, you slow non-urgent work or draw from on-site storage. This is demand shaping as a competitive advantage, treating your training scheduler like a market participant. On the water side, permits and rights determine whether you can evaporate, discharge, or must close the loop. Closed-loop systems with heat reuse, pushing warm water into district heating networks or industrial processes, move you from cost center to partner in local planning. Few do this well yet. Those who do earn a welcome instead of a moratorium. The turning points in this story look like maps and memos. The first was the decision by hyperscale builders to co-locate compute with steady, low-carbon generation. Hydro valleys, nuclear corridors, and cool northern latitudes moved from nice to have to strategic. The bet was simple. If your training jobs need months, buy certainty by sitting next to megawatts that run day and night, winter and summer. That decision birthed clusters near big rivers and legacy transmission backbones. The second hinge was cooling architecture. Air alone couldn't carry the heat of dense accelerators. Rear-door heat exchangers and direct-to-chip liquid cooling crossed the line from exotic to standard. Operators chose between evaporative assists, great for PUE, tough on water, versus refrigerant-based or closed-loop designs, gentler on water, sometimes harsher on electrons. Each choice pushed siting toward or away from arid basins. A third hinge was the split brain of AI itself, training versus inference. For years, data centers clustered near cheap power or near eyeballs. AI made both necessary. Training wants low-cost, low-carbon, stable electrons. Inference wants low-latency routes to users and to proprietary datasets. The result is dual footprints. Remote campuses chewing through petaflops near dams, and metro edge facilities answering queries with sub-200 millisecond targets. A fourth hinge was policy. As demand boomed, municipalities discovered that a single campus could draw as much as a factory without employing as many people. Some regions leaned in, streamlined permits, grid upgrades, and public-private plans that bundled new transmission with industrial parks. Others hit pause, temporary moratoriums on water-cooled sites, stricter air discharge rules for backup generators, or binding commitments on water intensity and heat reuse. Builders learned to arrive with a local value proposition, tax base, heat for greenhouses, internships with colleges, and investments in grid resilience that outlast any one tenant. The fifth hinge is corporate energy strategy. Many operators now chase 24/7 carbon-free energy, not only annual offsets. That pushes siting toward grids with firm low-carbon baseload, hydro, nuclear, geothermal, and toward contracts that match consumption hour by hour. It also invites hybrid solutions, co-locating small storage, contracting for wind at night and solar by day, and using training schedulers as levers to follow the cleanest hours. This is not virtue signaling, it is risk management. Carbon policies tighten, reputations matter, and predictable, low-volatility energy bills beat the cheapest headline rate that swings with weather. Economic consequences follow like water downhill. Power becomes the new rent. 2 cents per kilowatt-hour versus 8 cents doesn't sound dramatic until you multiply by hundreds of megawatts running near continuously. Over a project's life, that delta can decide whether a feature is profitable or a charity. Regions with abundant, steady, low-carbon power and cool climates attract capital. Land assemblages, substation expansions, and long-term PPAs pull in billions. Local construction booms, transformers, switchgear, chillers, pumps, and skilled trades become bottlenecks in their own right. Upstream, manufacturers of high-voltage equipment face backlogs measured in quarters. Downstream, campus real estate appreciates as interconnection capacity becomes rarer than land itself. Municipalities learn to negotiate. Some will trade tax incentives for binding commitments, a cap on peak draw, investments in local grid upgrades, or guarantees on heat reuse and water management. Others will protect scarce resources, no evaporative cooling in high-stress basins, stringent monitoring of discharge temperatures to preserve river health, or outright bans on new load until transmission catches up. Winners include utilities that can plan ahead and ratepayers who benefit from a stronger grid, funded in part by anchor customers. Losers can include small industrial users priced out by rising demand, or regions that overbuild without parallel investment in transmission, leaving megawatts stranded behind bottlenecks. The second-order effects ripple through technology choices. Engineers design accelerators and racks for higher inlet temperatures to widen the geography of feasible sites. Storage vendors pitch batteries not as backup, but as arbitrage tools to smooth peaks. Software teams bake carbon and cost into schedulers. Which job runs where, at what hour, to hit both latency and carbon targets. Product managers discover that latency budget is a business decision. Shaving 100 milliseconds in one region might double cost there, while routing to a nearby metro cluster keeps both money and user satisfaction in balance. Companies with footprints across multiple grids begin to see their map as a portfolio. This cluster trains at night on surplus wind. That one serves users at lunch from a low-latency edge. Another stands by for disaster recovery when a storm clips a transmission line. You can see modern echoes everywhere you look. In cool, river-fed regions, training campuses expand in phases tied to new substation bays and upgraded lines. In coastal metros, inference halls sprout next to major fiber exchanges, designed for fast turn-up rather than record PUE. In arid interiors, water-light designs trade a point or two of PUE to make permitting possible. Former industrial sites, decommissioned paper mills, retired coal plants, find new life where transmission already exists and water intake structures can be repurposed with tighter environmental controls. Universities partner with operators to capture waste heat for labs and dorms. Local farms use it for greenhouses. City councils ask sharper questions. How many permanent jobs? What grid upgrades are you funding? What is your hour-by-hour energy mix? And how will you report water use in summer? At the same time, a countercurrent forms at the edge. Not every inference call needs a hyperscale haul. For privacy-sensitive and latency-critical tasks, speech enhancement, translation, industrial vision, companies push small models onto local hardware. This doesn't erase the appetite for power, it reshapes it. A factory floor runs a cluster during shifts. A hospital runs on-site inference overnight while training stays in the cloud. The cloud and the edge become complements in an energy-aware design, not rivals in a zero-sum game. There are real limits and honest critiques to this chase. Data centers are not jobs engines on the scale of heavy manufacturing. Communities rightly ask for tangible benefits beyond headlines. Water use is nuanced. Some systems evaporate potable water. Others draw and return non-potable water slightly warmer. Measurement matters. Without transparent reporting, distrust grows. Backup generators, often diesel, raise air quality concerns during testing and outages. Alternatives like cleaner fuels and grid-forming batteries are improving, but not yet universal. Transmission is the slow gear. Building new high-voltage lines can take longer than raising a campus. Siting battles pit national priorities against local landscapes. Even when electricity is low carbon and cheap, the transformer sitting in a factory backlog can be the choke point. Finally, cheap power is often cheap because someone else needs it too. Aluminum smelters, hydrogen projects, electrified transport, and AI all court the same megawatts. Planning must widen beyond one sector's needs. From these constraints, a usable playbook emerges. Begin with the megawatt math. Don't commit to a site because the land is cheap, or the fiber is close if the substation is tapped out, or the interconnection queue stretches past your product roadmap. Ask 3 numbers up front: interconnection capacity, queue time, and upgrade responsibility. Next, pick cooling to match your basin. In a water-stressed region, favor closed-loop liquid or refrigerant-based designs and plan heat. Reuse early with real counterparties. In cooler, wetter climates, consider evaporative assists but commit to transparent water accounting and seasonal caps. Treat your scheduler like a trader. Training jobs with Slack can chase clean, cheap hours. Inference cannot. Give it the premium lanes. Expose carbon and cost signals to your orchestration so engineers can make informed trade-offs. Build a latency portfolio. Metro Edge for instant responses, regional hubs for heavier batch, remote training for brute force math. Contract for energy like a grown-up. Hourly matching is harder than annual offsets, but it aligns with where the world is going and protects you from policy whiplash. Where feasible, co-invest in grid upgrades that benefit both your campus and the community. It shortens your queue and earns you a social license to operate. Finally, report with humility. Publish PUE and WE, honestly, with seasonal context. Share hour-by-hour energy mix where possible. Quantify heat reuse in terms that matter locally. If you treat neighbors and utilities as partners rather than obstacles, your project spends less time in hearings and more time serving users. We started at a dam and traced lines to a quiet building that turns electrons into answers. The promise was to explain why AI's appetite for power pulls data centers toward rivers, reservoirs, and firm generation, and how water, latency, and grid physics set the real constraints. Now you've seen the machine. Electricity price and availability become your rent. Cooling is your hidden tax or your hidden advantage. Latency draws circles on the map that no spreadsheet can erase. Policy and community turn those circles into yes or no. If you're building or investing in this space, the most important question to ask at every turn is simple. Where do the next megawatts come from, and what do they cost in money, water, and time? If this episode clarified the real levers behind AI's geography, stay with us. On Incentive Atlas, we turn complex maps of money and technology into decisions you can act on. Tell me in the comments which constraint pinches you today: interconnection, water, cooling, or latency, and which one we should unpack next so you can plan with confidence.